Hey friends, this is now day 40 of this round of evening encouragements, which means that we are now at the end of this round. Thanks for letting me spend this time with you. If you've been with me all 40 days, thanks. That's a lot of minutes that we've spent together, and I'm grateful for it. And if you missed some of the 40 days, you can go back. It's all archived, and it's there for you if you want it. But with this video, I want to share with you one particular person who's been on my mind recently, and that is the disciple Philip. On Maundy Thursday, the night in which Jesus was betrayed, as Jesus is talking with his disciples, telling them all sorts of things, giving them wonderful commands, Jesus says something to Philip that struck me recently. He said, "Don't you know me, Philip?" And that made me feel better. Because Philip had been with Jesus, sitting with Jesus, hanging out with Jesus, learning from Jesus for a good long stretch. Most of the disciples had been with him for 3 years, or about 3 years. And you think of how much more you would know about Jesus and how much more you would understand about Jesus and his will if you had been with him for 3 years. Being able to ask him any question you want, being able to watch his facial expressions as he responds to you. And that there were things that Philip didn't know about Jesus made me feel better about the times in my life when it's obvious to me that I don't know enough about Jesus. It made me feel better about the times when I have a hard time understanding what Jesus is doing in my life, with my life, where he's leading me, where I'm going. It made me feel better for being ignorant about some pretty important things. But then fast forward to Philip being in eternity with Jesus, where all of his questions are answered and he's not lacking anything, not lacking any understanding or perspective or anything at all. And if Philip were to ask himself in eternity, how did I get here? You know what he would not say? He would not say, because I did such a good job of figuring it all out. Because I did such a great job of living by faith. Because I did such a great job of being a flawless disciple of Jesus. That's how I got here. I bet Philip felt a little foolish in that moment, Jesus asking him, "Don't you know me?" But it was the truth. It was reality. He didn't. Maybe for some reasons he just couldn't. There are things in the mind of God that none of us know. Not yet. But then there are ways that we practice our faith ways we don't practice our faith, that when we look in the mirror we wonder, you live as if you didn't even know Jesus in that moment, like he meant nothing to you. And if Philip was like any of us, I bet he thought of some of those moments in that moment. So Philip in eternity were thinking to himself, how did I get here? He wouldn't have said anything about Philip. He would have said something about Jesus. How did I get here? Well, Jesus was patient with me. And Jesus that night, knowing everything that was coming, he still went through with it for me. He still died for me. He still forgave me. He still rose again and promised that his resurrection was just a preview of my eventual victory over the grave, over sin and temptation, over everything. If Philip were to ask himself, how did I get here? The response would have something to do with Jesus and not a whole lot to do with Philip. And that's comforting for us too. Whatever stage you're at in life, whatever's going on in your life, it's easy to wonder if you're going to be all right, if it's going to turn out all right in the end. And as you evaluate your faith and your life with Jesus, there are a lot of things in our lives as we look at ourselves that make us wonder, am I going to be there next to Philip one day? And thankfully, the answer really has a lot more to do with what Jesus did than with anything that you or I do. And that's where we find our confidence, and that is why David, at the end of Psalm 23, says so confidently, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And how could he say that so confidently? I will. Not I might, not I could, but I will. He can say that for the same reason you and I can. Because we have the same Jesus Philip did. The same shepherd David did. The one who has already done everything necessary to put you in that beautiful place. He knows you. He knows us. He knows we need help. He gave it. He knows we need forgiveness. He already earned it. He knows we need something to look forward to. He's already prepared it. We will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Rest well tonight, my friends.